Hey, Juno. Juno. You're not participating, Juno. You're supposed to say what?
What?
Juno, say what? She's
What?
just looking up. She's got her head tilt. Hey, wouldn't it be? It's podcast time when you're stuck in Daddy's office because cat, right? Yeah. Come on. What do you got to say for yourself? She's got her paw up. She's going to say something. No, she's not going to. No, she's not going to say a thing. All right. Anyway, so I tell you what. From Rochester, New York, the home of the silent animal, this is FC3's Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky and everything. Everything can be geeky if you love it enough. Starring Daniel Carmen, starring Billy DeTore, starring Tanya Metris, and starring me. I am your host. My name is Chris Frank. We are missing a Billy today. That's unfortunate. He sent the text message to the group chat saying, "I'm not going to be able to make it today." And I sent him immediately the gif of Vader coming off the table.
No!
But we do, in his place, have a wonderful guest, a guest who we have been trying to get on board to the podcast for a couple of weeks now, the lovely and talented Elizabeth Rice. How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm doing okay.
I am so excited to get a chance to hang out with us. Yeah, well, it's 2020. You're doing the best we can for 2020. And, I saw a TikTok video this morning where the intern of Father Time came in and said, Father Time, I'm having an issue here. Your planner skips from 2020 to 2022. And he said, no. It's 2022. He goes, yeah, it's supposed to go to 2021. He goes, no. 2022. And the kid stares at him for a second and goes, "Oh, God."
Yeah.
Yeah. But the lovely and vivacious Elizabeth Rice is typically here when we're going to talk about a particular topic, and that would be Blake 7, of course. No, wait, no, wrong BBC show. Wrong BBC
show. Too.
I know. We should have a chat about Blake 7 one of these days. It's an entirely underrated and almost forgotten show.
Yeah.
What is Blake 7?
I haven't watched it myself, but I just know that Big Finish does audio dramas for that too.
There you go. Blake 7 was the BBC's answer to Star Wars back in the 70s.
Oh.
And it ran I can't remember if it ran for like 2 or 3 seasons. I'm going to have to look it up because we'll talk about it properly during a regular
Hold
podcast.
on. I've got Google.
There goes Tanya. And it's all they've got the hero spaceship and everything, and the crew it's just got a very dramatic plot line, and it's got this whole overreaching arc of fighting against injustice and whatnot, and a very interesting ending.
4 seasons.
4 seasons. Okay, cool. And but that's not the show we're going to talk about. There's another BBC show in particular that celebrated recently its 57th anniversary. 57 years of Doctor Who. And Elizabeth, I have commonly and often said once, time and again, that you actually surpass my knowledge level when it comes to the show, which is surprising considering how much of the show I have experienced and how much I know. And I do not say that in any insulting fashion. This is sheer admiration on my part. So I love it when you come on to the show to talk a little bit about our favorite show here.
Yeah.
So here we are. And now, how did you celebrate the 57th? Did you watch anything or listen to anything in particular?
I had to work that day, but I wore like my 13th Doctor shirt to work.
There you go.
For something fun to do. And I made myself a mask out of some Doctor Who fabric I had laying around so I could wear that.
Nice.
And then when I got home, I did watch Day of the Doctor because that is one of my favorite episodes.
It is a great one.
Yeah.
10 and 11 get along so famously. They got such great
fun.
chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah. And I think I might have even sat down and read a little bit of the book again too, because the novelization is great as well. Especially since Stephen Moffat wrote it too.
Okay.
So there's some interesting because it's not exactly like the episode. I mean, there's extra scenes, of course, because it's done in the style of the old Target novelizations that they did for the show. Before. My 2 favorite parts that are either not in or slightly different from the episode is, first of all, River Song is the one who tells the 10th Doctor about where to find the Zygons
Okay.
in England, which is fun. It's a whole chapter, and it's just hilarious because the setting is that River is in the bath, and the 10th Doctor's in the bath with her, except he is fully clothed.
And I can see that too. I can see him there with his brown suit.
He's like trying to get information out of her, and she's just like, like, don't you want to take at least your shoes off? And then one of the other parts that I think fun might be the wrong word, but I think it's funny, is the scene where they're all locked in the dungeon together.
Mhm.
You know how, like, the war doctor, I forget which one says, how many did you ever, the war doctor says, how many children were on Gallifrey that day? Did you ever count? And 11 says, I have absolutely no idea. And 10 is like, yes, I know exactly how many. In the novelization, I think 10 winds up punching 11 so hard that he passes, that he blacks out. He just gets so angry at him. And
He gets so angry at 11 he punches himself out.
Yeah, which brings the this is what I'm like when I'm alone joke.
Yeah, that much more meaningful. Oh, that's
It is really good though, because they did a series. I think there were 4 that came out around that time. Because I think, Stephen Moffat did a novelization of Day of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember which episode Russell T Davies did, because RTD did a novel of his too. Let me see if I can. Because I know the others were Rose, Twice Upon a Time, and the Christmas Invasion. And I think RTD wrote the one for Rose, and then some other authors did the one for Christmas Invasion and Twice Upon a Time. And I think there's another batch of them due to come out next year. So that'll be fun. I'm really hoping Gaiman might do a novelization of one of his episodes. That would be a lot of fun.
And that's one of the things I'm behind on, is I really have never listened to any of the Big Finish. I think there was one where it was the 6th Doctor, and I remember there was this throwaway line of it was basically they set up a series of situations where they explain why he wore such that hideous coat, because it was to confuse a particular type of alien who couldn't focus on the colors. That was the only Big Finish I ever listened to, and Colin Baker did such a lovely job with it. It was so fun to listen to him in action and just enjoy himself.
Yeah.
But I really should hunker in and start listening to those on a regular basis. There's so many of them though now. It's like, where would you even start?
Yeah. Well, I know there's some on Spotify. I think some of the earlier ones are on Spotify. But you can kind of just pick a character that you like, and they probably have a Big Finish spin-off, at least one volume. Because I think in January it'll be the 7th volume of River Song stories they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then they've got some for Lady Christina de Souza. They did a box set with Jenny, the Doctor's daughter. The Paternoster Gang has the series now.
Oh, that's great.
Of course, in May, they will finally have the 9th Doctor himself, Christopher Eccleston, finally free to come back.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm pretty sure it was because of Gallifrey 1, because he seemed to have such a blast at Galley this year. So I think you really got to see how much people love him and love his Doctor, and because I think he was getting asked literally all weekend by people, when are you going to do Big Finish? And he just saw how much people loved his Doctor, and he decided to come back. So I'm excited for those. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like what kind of stories they're doing with it, because the only thing they've said so far is that he's back. I don't know if Billy Piper is involved. I don't know if John Barrowman is involved. They haven't said anything yet, but there are at least 4 volumes of stories coming out, I think 2 next year and 2 the following year. So I'm excited for that. Probably be a good jumping on point for anybody who wants to listen and loves that Doctor.
That's a fair point. And then, it was so good because for such a long time he dug it. He was the Tom Baker of the new era, right? He had burned out and just decided, that's it, I'm cut off and I don't want anything to do with it. Even when though the fans were just screaming for more. Admittedly his reaction was a little bit more dramatic than Tom's. But you finally had this turnaround where he saw genuinely that the people who matter the most, the people who listen to the show, watch the show, love the show, and talk about it all the time, they were the ones asking, and so it just became less of a political situation and more of, hey, I have this ability to reach out, and that was so. Here you go, the snowball. I know I asked you this question the first time we met at FC3 during the Doctor Who panel, but how did you get into this show in the first place? Because you and I, really, in a realistic level, you and I are from different generations.
Yeah.
I remember watching, third and fourth and fifth Doctors as they were being, a few months after they were being aired in England, they were coming to America. Whereas you had the ability to kind of jump on from the beginning of the rebirth of the series. So how did you find it? What brought you to it?
So basically just like my aunt and uncle are big fans. I had some friends in high school that were big fans, and yeah, they were like, "Oh, you should watch it. You'd like it." And I was like, "All right." So I think it was like over like winter break of my senior year of high school. It was still on Netflix at the time. So I started it up and just, kind of went from there. It was funny. I think I've told this before, but it was kind of funny because when I got to Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, I realized that I'd seen that episode before because I think I had been doing like homework or something, and my grandpa fell asleep with BBC America on, and that was more interesting than my homework. So I'd seen that, but I hadn't realized it was Doctor Who at the time. So I got to, there was that, and then it just kind of went from there. Like I think the moment I kind of was like, yeah, this is a show I'll be, very much into. I mean, I liked the first episode, of course. I especially, loved the Nine's whole speech about, I can feel the world turning. It was just such a kind of goosebumps moment. But I think the moment I was really sold was, let us mourn the earth with a classic Earth ballad, and Toxic starts playing.
Toxic from Britney Spears. Bitchy trampoline.
Yes. Or Taint, I think Tainted Love is in there, that episode too, and I was just like, this is hilarious.
And Nine is sitting there, he's jigging along with that grin on his face, saying, "This is too appropriate. This is very."
Oh yeah. So, and yeah, it's just I've loved the show, and it's there's so much to it. Even when it's not on TV, there's so much you can get into. I think I found out about Big Finish just from people that I'd followed online, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I kind of checked it out a little bit to start with, but I really got going with it once they brought David Tennant back on board to play the Doctor, because he had done Big Finish for them before he got the part of the Doctor. He's in a couple of their older releases, but yeah, and then once they started doing stuff from the era of the show that I was most familiar with, I was like, oh yeah, I'll jump in on this too. Yeah.
Tanya, how about you? I know, I think I strong-armed you into the show, didn't I?
You did. It was over February break from, I don't know how many years ago it was. I want to say 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a while ago, and you're like, come on. And once I dove in. And
yeah, you know what? I don't think I realized exactly how your reaction was going to be, right? I figured you were going to like it. I just didn't think you were going to be like dove all in, like
binge
the whole series in a weekend and say, oh my
God.
God.
I don't think it was a weekend. I think I started over February break, and I want to say by the middle of March I had done all the episodes that were currently on Netflix at the time. So.
Yeah. I think your husband was a little mad at me too, because I have this suspicion that he tried getting you into the show a couple of times just for the amusement factor of it, and it did not take. And then all of a sudden, here I come and I got you to watch it.
Well, he was watching the Tom Baker ones. He was watching the classic ones, and I still have not gone back to the classic ones. And I know I'd seen like a couple of the ones for the newer seasons, and I'm like, I wasn't too sure, but when I am in the middle of something that I don't necessarily know the background of where they've gotten to that point, I'm kind of like Billy, where I have to be a completist, where I have to kind of start at the beginning of something before I can't just jump in the middle and try to figure out what's going on. So I think that was probably one of the things, and going, what is this? And the thing is, like, I don't like Red Dwarf either. So, and he loves that.
Yeah.
So
This all touches on stuff that you and I have talked about on podcasts.
the British humor type
British
thing that
humor, your British sci-fi, which has a little bit of British humor in it, you're okay with, but full on, Monty Python, Red
Right.
Dwarf, Benny Hill, stuff like that, you're gonna be like, yeah, pass. But the rest of us are like, yes, give us more.
Well, right now he's watching Good Omens. And he's loving it. And he goes, I don't think you'll like it. He goes, it's too Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type thing.
It really is, to a degree.
Where he's going, where they're going. I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm like, now what's this? What's because he was watching it like the second episode or something. I'm like, okay, I'm out. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It looked intriguing and interesting, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm looking now because I'm Doctor Who's on HBO Max, so now I can go back and rewatch. But I have them on DVD, so I can go back and.
That's my plan too, is to eventually start collecting the seasons on DVD, even though I know streaming services, yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you just want to be able to hold it in your hand and put it anywhere you want, like on your computer, on this laptop, or do this, kind of thing. Or just be able to look at your shelf and see it there. And call me old-fashioned, but that's a thing. How about you, Daniel? You were Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek. Did you ever get into Doctor Who when we were that age?
Not as much as you. I mean, I did watch it. I wasn't as much as. I mean, I really got into it a lot more when the new seasons started there. Mm-hmm. But I did watch it because there wasn't much else to watch back then, and it was science fiction. It was, I liked British shows. That was probably the main one that I watched. But but yeah, I definitely didn't get into it as much as you did back then. You and Brian, and so I couldn't talk on the same level as you back then. But
you've caught up.
Still harder to go back and watch the old ones, though.
It is. I mean, you have an entirely different production
vibe,
production ethos. And you had the episodic, bug-eyed rubber monster of the week kind of thing. There really wasn't a lot in terms of story arcs. You might have a 2-parter, 3-parter kind of, or some loose kind of attachment to each other. But the way that it was structured and the way that it ran, it was more of a sci-fi soap opera than anything else. And the acting was just so tremendously over the top more often than not. It's hard to kind of shift gears. And this leads me, and this is great, this leads me down the path to bring the conversation back to Elizabeth, because Elizabeth, as Finding New Who, watching Christopher Eccleston, watching David Matt, Peter and Jodie, because I know you did, but when did you make that decision to go back and start looking at the classic, and what were your first impressions of it?
I'm trying to remember exactly when, because like I said, I started watching, I started binging it on Netflix like late 2011. It's 2012. When Tanya was talking about binging it, I remembered how when I was watching season 4 for the first time, I actually I freaked out so much at the end of The Stolen Earth when Ten and Rip and Rose are about to be reunited, and,
I know.
and he gets shot and he's regenerating. I freaked out so much that my dad told me I was done for the day. He's like, I'm turning it off. You are done. You can't watch another episode until tomorrow. I was like, but that's like the closest I came to actually having to deal with a cliffhanger until I think at that point, season 6 had been done showing on TV. So I had to go buy it on iTunes to finish watching it. So the first season I watched as it went out was season 7. And I think it was between like that. It must have been in between, the waiting for series 7 to start, and when I had finished watching season 6, that I started watching some of the older ones. Because I do, I of course remember, getting the references in Name of the Doctor. But I think the first one I watched, because I don't think they were. I think Netflix might have had a couple of episodes at the time, but they weren't really streaming anywhere. So I think I must have gotten some DVDs out from the library or something. And I think the first one that I watched was probably The 5 Doctors.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was a fun episode. I remember that one.
Yeah. Well, because I was so intrigued by the idea of a multi-doctor episode, because that was something I kind of cottoned on to, the fact that could be a thing pretty early on. Because I remember watching the empty child for the first time, and Nancy says something like, "Oh, you have to go talk to the doctor about it," and you see this look on Nine's face, like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, that would be so cool," but that, winds up being a completely different character. So I think I started with the 5 Doctors. I'm trying to remember what other ones I watched early on. I probably got the 3 Doctors out as well, because I thought that concept was interesting. I probably watched An Unearthly Child pretty early, because I've got like a list somewhere of the ones that I've seen.
Right.
Just to keep track. I've watched a lot of 4th Doctor ones, because I really like Romana. She's a fun character, so I've watched.
And you cosplay
all
her
of
very
the first
well.
Romana ones. I think I've watched the first season of the second Romana ones, and then I started the season, her second season. But I kind of jump around a lot, just depending on, what I'm kind of wanting to know more about, because sometimes there'll be references in an episode, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder what that is, and then people online will be like, oh, this is from this episode. I'm like, okay, I'll go watch that then, because like one of my friends at Gallifrey 1 this year did Sarah Jane Smith's costume from, oh shoot, what's the episode? Oh, I can't remember what it was.
Sarah Jane, is it a new episode that she was in?
No, one of the older ones.
One of the third or fourth Doctor ones?
Yeah. I think it was I haven't watched this episode yet, but it was like the Mask of
Mask of Mandragora?
Yes, that one. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. See, I still have some chops.
There's just some of the, episode titles from the older ones. It's just like, okay, what,
Right. It gets a little challenging to remember them all sometimes.
Yeah. I'm having that problem with the 13th Doctor ones too. Like, people will be like, oh, the Battle of whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one that I can never remember the name of. And then I also watched another episode, because this one lady did this amazing costume. Can't remember the character's name. Eldrad Must Live, I think is what I remember.
Oh, you know what? I know that chant. I
yes.
looked that up. I think because I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so I watched that one because I wanted to see what that character was all about.
The Hand of Fear.
Yeah, Hand of Fear. Yeah, that one. So, and then I think I was watching the one where 4 goes back to Gallifrey, because I wanted to start watching the Leela episodes, but that was like the first one in the season where Leela comes in, because I haven't seen a single Leela episode, but I love her because of the Gallifrey series.
Right. And
Louise
Jameson always did a wonderful job with that character. It was always a lot of fun to watch Leela in action, because her response was just kill it.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to see. And I think it made it a very interesting twist. I mean, because in the 70s, you still had feminism was still kind of a thing that was growing. You didn't have this tidal wave of diversity and equality that we have now. It was growing. It was a thing. So you have the Doctor who was being the cerebral, almost sometimes a pacifist, and then Leela, the female, is the one who's like, I will kill you. No, I'll take you. I'm protecting him. He's not saving the universe. I'm saving him so he can do his job. It was so great to see that dynamic. And the Doctor never slighted away from it. He never felt, belittled or emasculated by it. He goes, oh yeah, this is my friend. He just kept going through it. Every so often he had to rein her in, but it was never. Yeah. It was never like, oh, look at the funny woman being, all mean spirited. There was really this cool bond between the two of them, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and in the Gallifrey series, she and Romana are really good friends. I think she's like Romana's bodyguard to start with, but then they grow to be really good friends. And it's fun listening to that dynamic. Like like I said, I've never seen an episode with Leela, but she is one of my favorite characters just based on the audios alone.
Now, was it Lala Ward voicing Romana?
Yes, Lala Ward. For the most part, they have all of the original cast, unless they've passed away. I know recently they did announce that they've got a new voice actor in to do some early War Doctor stuff.
Okay.
John Hurt had been doing some Big Finish stories with them before he passed away, and mostly because he was battling with cancer, and it was something he could sit down and do, and still act and have it be a job. But he also, obviously loved the fans. He was a guest at Gallifrey 1 year. I think probably the year before he died, he was at Gallifrey 1. And you could tell he really enjoyed it. It was very sweet,
Well, he was overwhelmed. He was so overwhelmed by the the response that he got.
Yeah.
And he knew what he was getting into when he signed on for the part. He knew what the fandom was like. He knew he had been a fan of the show himself to a degree. And I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but the urban legend that I heard is that when he knew that he was pretty much in his final months, he had said something to a friend or an agent saying, if I had to have a job to end my career and my time on this earth with, this was the one to do it, because this warmth that I'm receiving all the way to the end of my days has been just amazing. So, I can see him saying something like that. I really can. I can envision that, because John Hurt was that kind of guy.
Yeah. So yeah, they recast the War Doctor. I think they've got somebody in doing the Brigadier now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I forget. I think, is it John Colshaw? I forget who it is. I'd have to look it up. And they've got somebody now doing the Third Doctor, and Liz, of course. Joe Grant is still being played by the amazing actress Katie Manning, who is a light whenever she's at Gallifrey 1. She's so much fun.
She really is an amazing force of nature, that woman. Yeah. She's just irrepressible. Yeah. Absolutely full throttle woman. Yeah. Who was the first Doctor Who actor you met?
Oh, I gotta go look at my photos. I bet I know. I bet I can figure that out. It might have been Matt, because I feel like he was one of the earlier ones to come to. Well, no, it would have been somebody from Gallifrey 1. The first year I went to Gallifrey 1, I think the first person I got a picture with was Arthur Darvill.
Okay.
And I had seen him before because I had gone to see him in Once when he was playing Guy in Once, and that was a lot of fun. He was fun because he sings, and plays guitar and everything.
Yeah, I actually remember finding a couple of his band's pieces on YouTube and just listening to them, and it's cool. It's pop. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
How about you, Daniel-san? Who was the first Doctor Who actor you met?
Who did we have?
Caitlin Blackwood.
We had Colin Baker.
We had Colin Baker. Yep.
And then we had Caitlin Blackwood.
Yep.
And Terry Malloy.
Yeah, yes. And I was going to say Terry Farrell, but that's Star Trek. And I'm just like, but I knew it was Terry, but I'm like, God, I couldn't remember.
They look slightly different.
Yes, slightly.
There's a little bit of. I think Terry Farrell's taller. That's about it.
Probably.
That's about it. And her hair is a little darker than Terry Malloy's is.
Yes.
Yeah.
But really,
Colin Baker would be the first one, and then Caitlin.
Caitlin Blackwood.
Yeah.
Because I know you had gone to a couple of cons, Dan. And I know you've gotten your pictures taken with Matt and with Alex.
Yeah, we went to New York. Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if you'd met them before you'd met Colin.
I think that was after, right?
I see. That's why
2018.
2018. Okay, so yeah, definitely after, because Colin was at our second show.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which was a bit of a victory for us to have a Doctor Who, and actually having a doctor at FC3 like in the second year we did it. That was kind of cool.
He's fun too. Yeah, there was one year I think they had Colin, Peter, and Paul at Gallifrey 1, and that was a lot of fun because they let them do their own panel. They didn't even give a moderator. They were just like, go on.
Just go up there and have at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I again, I haven't seen a ton of Classic Who, but I always make it a point to go to the Classic Who companion panel at Gallifrey 1, because even though I might not know exactly what they're talking about, you can tell they all have so much fun doing these. Just the stories, especially this year, they had Peter Davison, and I think most, if not all, of the actors who played his companions, and it was just so much fun watching them on stage ribbing each other about everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You can tell the camaraderie these people have, and you have the shared bond of being this legendary piece, this legendary show. Tanya, I'm not going to ask, because I know your first was Colin Baker as well, because I know you don't usually go. I can't speak anymore. All of a sudden, my voice is in an entirely different direction. But I know you don't go to a lot of conventions, so I'm pretty sure Colin Baker was your first Doctor Who person.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Okay. My first was Nicholas Courtney, the Brigadier, and I was all of 13 years old when he came to Rochester for a Creation convention when that came through, because Creation they were like the traveling circus of sci-fi, Comic Cons and stuff like that. And they came to what was then the Holiday Inn. I don't know what it is right now. It was the Radisson, and then it's the one slated for demolition across from the
convention center.
Convention center. So, but I remember that's where I met him. And I went to the panels and I got his autograph and I got to talk for a little bit. And then he would channel the Brigadier, which made us all scream and we're having a grand old freaking time. But then my buddy Jim and I, who had gone to the convention together, there was a McDonald's like 3 doors down from the hotel, so we were there for lunch, and we're just chewing the fat and talking about what we'd just seen. And all of a sudden, none other than Nicholas Courtney comes walking in. And here we are, had just seen him, just gotten his autograph. And now he's like walking right past us at a McDonald's of all places, because you have that kind of anonymity in the 80s when you're part of this cult show, which had not hit global phenomenon status at this point. And he looked and he saw us and he smiles. He goes, and then the Brigadier came out, gentlemen. And then we both were so sitting bolt upright. It was a rip. It was an absolute rip. So I remember that. And then, of course, I've met Colin twice now, and Caitlin, and I'm hoping to. That's why I'm going to start collecting living doctors at this point, because I've been missing out on that. I need to go to more conventions when they start happening again. I need to go to more conventions.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know. I was bummed because I was thinking about, because they kind of cycle through the classic doctors at Galley. They don't generally have the same one, 2 years in a row. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it would have been a Paul McGann year.
Oh no!
Like no, because he's so sweet. I've listened to.
Paul got shafted too.
Yeah, of all the non-new Who big finishes that I've listened to, I've mostly listened to his, just because I feel like I want to watch all of the particular Doctor's episodes before I get too deep into the extra stuff.
Right.
And so of course, it's just, you just got to watch the movie with him, and then the short that came out in 2013 for the anniversary.
Right.
And he's very sweet. I think I got a picture with him. Long Island. I don't know if they still do it or not, but there was a Doctor Who convention in Long Island, and I got my picture with him there, and he was very sweet.
It's been 7 years since that already.
I know.
Flies.
I know. I hope they have a really fun idea for the 60th anniversary.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure Chris Chibnall's already slaving away at it as we speak.
Yeah. Sweet talking the actors, be like, "You want to come back, right?" Because I remember. I forget when I read it, but I remember reading something where at one point Stephen Moffat was writing a version of the 50th anniversary with no doctors, because Matt technically wasn't under contract for that long, and he hadn't.
Oh, wow.
David hadn't been contacted yet, and Chris and all that, and so there's a version of Day of the Doctor out there somewhere where it's just Clara.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh, people would have gone bonkers for that. That would not have gone over well.
Yeah.
Oh my word! Oh my word!
At that point, because I really want Kate Stewart back.
Oh, that would be cool. That's a great character.
I keep thinking that she's going to show up in the new series, because one of the reasons why people knew or had guessed that Captain Jack was going to be back for this special was he hasn't been in any Torchwood releases. He hasn't had any Big Finish releases, I think, since March of this year. So obviously, Chibnall didn't want anybody writing extra stuff for him,
right.
That might contradict what he was planning on doing. And they haven't had a unit box set in a while now. And they had said, oh, it's because we're going to, kind of retool the series a little bit, switch, writers and stuff. But it's been a while. And I'm like, can I please have more Kate and Osgood and the other characters who have so far only showed up on audio, though? Oh, the actor this season, the actor who played the detective in Praxis, whatever one it was, where it was one of the environmental.
Oh, right. I remember who you're talking about. I just can't think of the person's name at the moment. Yeah,
no, there's a character called Josh Carter in the unit box set, and I was like, oh, maybe it's Josh Carter, and then it was not him, but he used the exact same voice in the entire episode. I'm sitting there like, it's Josh Carter. Where's Kate? Where's Osgood? Okay. So I'm hoping they'll show up because like they haven't been in Big Finish in a while. So
Was that
but
Matthew McNulty?
it
That
might be.
That was
look
Adam
at
Lang, or
yeah.
Warren Brown was Jake Willis.
Warren Brown is in the Big Finish stuff. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna be embarrassed if I got the wrong character name. But
Oh, don't be, please. You've forgotten more about Doctor Who than I've ever known. That's amazing. No, you're in good shape. Don't worry about that. Here's what I wanted. Here's what I wanted to know.
Name.
What's that? Sorry.
Sam Bishop is the character's name
Ah.
that Warren Brown plays. I was thinking of a different character, but they're both ones that have only shown up in the audio so far. So
here's what I want to do right now. I want to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we've talked a kind of a little bit of our retrospective. We've done our version of a retrospective of this 57-year-old monster of a TV show. When we come back, Elizabeth, I want to get your view on where the show is at this very moment, and a little theory crafting on where we think it's going, and maybe some ideas of where we would want it to go. So that we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, that's what will be next. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, talking about one of the, at least in my popular opinion, one of the coolest TV shows to ever grace the small screen ever. And that would be Doctor Who, 57 years and counting this past November. And the holiday special is coming up. And it's going to be, is it New Year's Day this year?
Yeah.
Okay. The 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, finding herself dealing with Daleks, as every Doctor should on a few occasions throughout the course of their tenures. And it looks like we're going to have some pretty cool guests in this one. Elizabeth, help me out here. Is it Captain Jack rumors are official at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Captain Jack Harkness, the irrepressible John Barrowman. Anyway.
Who looks better in heels than I do.
Yes, he owns it. It's amazing. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why John Barrowman is so beloved by the people who experience him. You don't meet John Barrowman. You don't get a chance to get to know him. You experience John Barrowman, because that man is the consummate definition of full throttle. And I love him for it. It's just amazing to watch him in action.
I thought it was hysterical when we moved you into your house that we found his book on that bookshelf from your predecessor.
Oh, that's right.
Anything goes. Right. And the book actually came home with me. I have that. So it's on our bookshelf, but it was hysterical.
My predecessor who owned this house before I did, he left this large bookshelf on the front porch, the enclosed front porch, and there was tons of different books and lots of cookbooks, lots of biographies and dramas and this, that, and the other thing. And wouldn't Tanya find the one and only John Barrowman book on the entire freaking collection? And it was hilarious. And I'm like, sure, go ahead, keep it.
Yes. Yep, it came home.
The least I could say thank you for helping me move into my house.
Other than pizza.
And there's always lots of pizza. So what do we know about the upcoming holiday special? On New Year's Day, what are we going to see?
Yeah, so from the trailer, and because I personally try to avoid too many unofficial spoilers, I try not to look at set photos or anything, but basically it's the 13th Doctor is in space jail after the Judoon founder, but the Yaz and Graham and Ryan are all back on Earth, and there's a Dalek invasion. Apparently, they are passing themselves off as security drones.
Oh, God.
Which, apparently everybody forgot, what happened in season 4, but there is an in-universe explanation for that, I guess. So,
I see.
because apparently, because I guess the idea is that because Stephen Moffat kind of wanted a reset was so that not every, human character on Earth was like, oh, it's aliens again. He kind of had the explanation where the crack that, was in Amy's wall kind of erased everybody's memories of the Daleks invading and stuff like that, or whatever. There's a couple different ways it can work out, but so they're on Earth without the Doctor to call on to take care of the Daleks as they know she can, and Captain Jack comes from somewhere, who knows what he's been up to in the meantime exactly anyway.
But Jack is back.
Yeah, Jack is back. Yeah. That was like the 5-second teaser on Doctor Who Day. That was it. I was like, why can we not have an entire trailer today, though? Okay.
Has there been an official trailer yet?
Yeah, there was a full trailer. I think it came out a week ago because I did write the
blog,
the little thing for the Patreon blog about it. I think it was about a week ago.
Right.
But yeah, so and the crazy American hotel owner who also gets into politics is back in this episode as well.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing him in that. Okay, I did see the trailer after all. I was thinking, like, okay, now I remember. See, this is what happens when you're 7 years younger than the show you're talking about. Okay, so with that all being said, so we have Daleks, we have Jadoon, we have the Doctor in jail. So is this going to be a Doctor Light episode? Because I know Moffat and Davies did that like once a season. There was one where you almost didn't have the Doctor at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I think Chris Chibnall seems to be slightly better than his. I mean, I was only really active in the fandom enough to know what was going on when Stephen Moffat was doing stuff, but it does seem like Chibnall is a little bit better at getting secrets to be kept.
Okay.
Slightly, because I knew what the what the cliffhanger to the Doctor Falls was. 3 hours before I saw the episode, because they were filming outside and there was pictures on set of the first Doctor and the 12th Doctor, and I was like, well, I guess I know what's happening.
Yeah, that's kind of a giveaway, unfortunately. Yeah.
So I think he's a little bit better because I mostly knew Chris Chibnall's writing from Broadchurch, which it's one of those shows I got into because I knew David Tennant was in it, and then just wound up falling in love with the show. To be canceled 3 seasons later.
I know, it was a great show.
It's really good. I mean, he did plan it for it to be 3 seasons, unlike my very sad finding out this week that DuckTales is ending after 3 seasons. But it's a whole other topic. But
it's another thing entirely. Yeah.
So he does seem to be better because I know one of how do I do this without spoilers for Broadchurch, because it is really good and I highly recommend watching it with as little spoilers as possible. But basically in season 2, nobody really knew exactly what the plot of season 2 was going to be until it aired. Even the trailer for it was a little what's going on, just kind of brief flashes of things. An actor that everybody expected to not be back in season 2 from season 1 was back, and they went to the extent of he was in a different hotel from the rest of the cast. They made him arrive at a different time. They had him wear a wig when he was doing outside stuff. So he does seem to be a little bit better at finding ways to keep secrets. So it's hard to tell what exactly the episode is going to be. I mean, they kept the Captain Jack coming back a secret, in Fugitive of the Jadoon.
Right.
So
he decided they're renovating their flat over there because people saw him at the store. So he's like, I ended up having to go to the Home Depot type stores to throw people off the trail.
Even started actually, I think Bearman actually started renovating that flat while he was there.
I had to.
If it's my cover story, I might as well.
Yeah,
because they did start filming the new season a few weeks ago, and obviously it is now official that that Graham and Ryan will not be back for this next season. haven't said anything about Yaz one way or the other yet.
No.
And I was thinking, like, oh, wouldn't it be, funny or just fun if, Captain Jack was a companion for a season, like, but you can't look at John Barrowman's social media and get any indication of that because he's learned how to play that game.
Right, exactly. It's better. That's the thing is that and you nailed it. It is a game that we all play these days. And it's better for the fans to not know, I think. If we don't know what's going to happen going in, it's better for the story. It's better for the experience. But I'm interested to see, I mean, they're not making any references to future companions. So it looks like right now, off the cuff, it's going to be 13 and Yaz, which could be an interesting combination. I think it would be a good chance Yaz to actually shine instead of just being in the background, kind of holding the two boys together.
Yeah, though I don't even know if Yaz will be back for sure because I do follow Mandip on Instagram and I don't see any indications that she's on set, and there is like one shot in the trailer that looks like things are not going well for her. So I don't know. I do think it would be interesting if it was just an entire season of just the Doctor on her own. Or
which is something that just clicked in my head that when you were talking about it. I'm like, okay, that could be a thing.
Yeah, because I mean, they did a little bit of that with the season 4 specials at the end of David Tennant's run. He didn't have a companion for any of those episodes. But also, I'd really like it if maybe because when they originally announced that there were going to be 3 companions, I thought, okay, cool, whatever. That sounds interesting. I didn't hate it, I think, as much as some people did, apparently.
We live in an era where you can't announce something about a global entertainment phenomenon and you're not going to get the hate. I mean, it's impossible. There's going to be a cadre of people that will despise something you're doing, and it's unfortunate but true.
Yeah, because I remember when they announced it, I was like, oh, cool, maybe they'll all be from like different times or places, but then they all wound up being from contemporary Earth. Bad, but I was kind of hoping that maybe they'd be just slightly from different time periods because I think that would be an interesting dynamic. So maybe if 13 does wind up being on her own again at the end of this special, maybe she'll just kind of acquire companions naturally, like one at a time or something, kind of how like I guess 5 did, where he just kind of wound up with like a bunch of people on his TARDIS at one point from all times and places and planets and everything. So
you make a valid point. I didn't even think of that. In New Who, every companion has been a contemporary to us.
Yeah, I guess at one point they were originally going to have Clara be Victorian, be like the Clara that we saw in The Snowmen. I guess they went forward with that idea enough that Neil Gaiman has said that his initial drafts of A Nightmare in Silver did have Victorian Clara and Victorian children that she was nannying. So he did have some, stuff to adjust when he did the final bits of his episode, but it would have been interesting for sure. So I think it'd just be fun to have companions from different times and places.
Right.
So I don't dislike the contemporary, Earth companions, because definitely it serves a purpose in terms of what the Doctor has to explain is, pairs up pretty well with what would need to be explained to the person watching the TV show. But I just think it would be a fun dynamic to have that they could play with and have it be a little more interesting and a little bit more fresh. Because, like, apart from River, who doesn't really stick around all that long, and Jack, who is only a companion for a few episodes, it's all been contemporary Earth, contemporary England, for that matter. So,
well, everything that I'm seeing right now, as of December 6th, 2020, Mandip Gill is returning as Yaz.
Okay.
It says series star Jodie Whittaker is still on board as the Doctor, and the same goes for showrunner Chris Chibnall and Mandip Gill as companion Yaz.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I follow her on Instagram, and I hadn't seen anything that looked like was Doctor Who, but I'm, given, like I said, how Chibnall is, I'm sure probably there's very minimal allowance.
Well, there's an interview with her on Radio Times in the next day or two. Like I saw something about on the 8th, and she said she just thought, I'm not ready for this journey to end. Why leave something if you're enjoying it? It's working and there's development. Just like, I don't know when it will end for me, because as a person, as a character, there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, I liked having, like, I think it's an interesting dynamic having 3 companions, but like I said, I just wish they'd kind of come on board one at a time so we could, like, have a Yaz episode or have a Ryan episode or a Graham episode, like, so you got to know all of them before they all kind of just got, like, thrown into everything all at once.
Because back in the day, I mean, like, I think the 2 people who had the most were 4 and 5. No, well, you know, one had a crew at one point or another.
Yeah.
2 was always, the second Doctor always had, like, Jamie for the most part, and then maybe 1 or 2 other people, but usually just 1.
Zoe,
3
I think.
and yeah, I remember her because 4, towards the end of his run, he ran into Adric. Then they picked up Nyssa. Then they picked up Tegan, and then they killed off Adric. Spoiler alert! Oops. And then they picked up Turlo, and so there was 3, and for a while, and then Tegan took off, and then she came back, and Nyssa took off and came. It was just a really weird, you know, kind of back and forth kind of a thing there. But yeah, it's people saying, well, 3 is not, you know, not normal. Yeah, it kind of is. It happened.
Just I think, you know, with fewer, because I know the whole argument when they reduced the number of episodes at the start of 13's run was like, oh, the episodes will be longer, though, so you're still getting the same amount of Doctor Who. I'm like, yeah, but there's a difference between the amount, like the runtime, and the number of stories. And I think that's kind of what maybe didn't quite work, because we never got, you know, they didn't have enough time for, you know, I mean, Yaz had Demons of the Punjab and that, but I just wish that there had been a little bit more time to explore each of the companions before they decided to, you know, jump on board full time.
Right. They did kind of throw them into the mix there.
Yeah.
How do you like Jodie?
I like her. I mean, she's a fun actress. I like that they let her be funny, especially because what I saw her in Broadchurch was, you know, she was playing the mom of a murdered 10-year-old. So there was obviously a lot of emotion involved there. And I think you know, having her be bright and cheery compared to 12 is, you know, something they kind of had to do, because that's kind of what happened with 11, where he was so childlike and whatever, and then you kind of switch over to 12 and he's all old and grumpy, because, you know, you got to have some variety in how the Doctor is.
But he lightened up too, and
he
when
did,
12,
for sure.
When 12 lightened up is when he really became like one of the quintessential Doctors at that point.
And I think we're kind of seeing that, but backwards with 13, because she started out so, like, you know, warm and happy and let's go, you know, and now all this stuff with Gallifrey and the Master again, she's kind of getting
13
grumpy,
you know. Showing.
So
that's the thing.
I just hope that they let her do, because I don't mind the funny and the light stuff, but I hope they let her do more dynamic and dramatic stuff, because the scene that really made me excited for her Doctor, when I was watching Broadchurch again after I, you know, because obviously I remembered quite a lot of Broadchurch, but I'm like, let me go back and rewatch it again after the announcement got made, is the scene at the end of season 2 where she's basically confronting the person who murdered her child, and she's saying, you know, all this stuff about, you don't get to talk, you need to listen to what I am saying, because you don't get a voice in this, you need to shut up and let me talk and get through this, and stuff about, like, you know, we could kill you in here and dump your body on a beach and nobody would care, because, you know, you're this awful person. And it's just such an amazing scene, and I love it a lot. And I've just been kind of waiting for more of that from her Doctor. I mean, we've definitely gotten a bit of that, especially this season. I think the first season, in my opinion, they were trying just a little too hard to make the 13th Doctor likable. I think because there was such a backlash against how grumpy 12 was, though I thought it was perfectly fine that he was grumpy, especially if you think about what 11 went through right before the regeneration. Like, he was stuck on a planet for centuries watching generations after generations of these people die because of him, essentially, and him having to be the one to protect their planet from getting blown up by Daleks, Cybermen, everything, you know?
Right.
So it makes sense for him to have been grumpy. And so I think they tried a little too hard, both between what happened with 12 being so grumpy and because she's the first woman doctor in the show. I think they tried a little too hard to make her too peppy too, you know, but yeah, because there were a couple times in her first season where she'd be like, "Oh, I don't know what that is," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, no, the doctor, you know, I don't think anybody could ever know everything in the universe, obviously, but there was a little too much of that with that season,
a little naivete that was
like I'm like." Like I felt like she should have known what a bating was, because that seemed like something that, you know, as a person who drives a ship with unlimited power, that the doctor should know about potentially, you know.
Yep, there was a couple moments that I questioned too.
Yeah, so I like her. I think it's getting better. I'm definitely interested to see, you know, both this special, you know, now that because they did very purposefully make, like, there were no references and no returning monsters or characters apart from the Doctor and the TARDIS in her first season, because they wanted it to be a jumping on point. They didn't want to scare any new fans away by having too much continuity, but I'm like, you got to have some, especially for the, you know, for the fans who've been watching for a really long time. And they've definitely started bringing that back with, you know, the Master, which was the most bonkers reveal, like, because I had no clue.
Yeah, you didn't see it coming. That was one of those few times where they caught me completely flat-foot.
Of course, yeah, like between that and Captain Jack this season, I was like, okay, as annoyed as I sometimes am about the lack of information sometimes out of Chibnall's Doctor Who, like, okay, that was fun. I appreciated that did not get out, you know.
Yeah.
So I you know, I'm definitely interested to see how this special goes and how her next season goes, even though I'm still kind of sad. Like, I understand why, but I'm still sad that it's only 8 episodes next year. So.
I know the COVID. Well, you know, COVID.
Yeah, it's like
anyway.
Yeah, like I completely understand that probably a lot of their budget is having to go towards, you know, safety measures to make sure everybody's safe and everything. But I'm like, like, I almost wish that they had found a way to do like a split season, kind of like how they did season 6 and season 7.
A couple episodes in the spring and then a couple in the fall.
Yeah, because I think that might have given them enough time, you know, like film some episodes now so you have some for next year, so it's not, you know, another year without any Doctor Who apart from the New Year's special.
Right.
But then, you know, hopefully maybe they would have been able to take enough of a break to then come back and do another 5 episodes with things being a lot calmer. But, you know, they got to do what they got to do, especially if actors might be attached to other things, you know, who knows. So. But at least they're able to do it. They're able to film. So.
Onward and forward.
Yeah.
I know we wanted to talk a little bit about some like Time Lord Victoria stuff like that on Big Finish. Unfortunately, just I'm looking at the clock right now. And I'm like, and that's the thing about
another podcast all in itself.
Yeah, when you have diehard fans, you can talk about this show for hours, plural, and still not be able to effectively scratch the surface of all the things you can talk about when it comes to this this global phenomenon.
Yeah, especially because it's not just a TV show anymore. The comics, the audios, the books, everything.
But I do want to ask the question that we'd hit at the top. You know, it's very important to me. If you eat 20 boxes of Jelly Babies in under 5 minutes, do you suddenly regenerate? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Huh.
It's an experiment. I think it's an experiment. I think you know, at the very least, I know what's going to happen if you eat 20 boxes of Jelly Babies in 5 minutes. You're going to have diabetes.
Yeah.
You're going to have diabetes. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a whole other setup. Yeah.
Lord.
I feel like, probably.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for hanging out with us as you have on a couple of occasions. I love having you over on the show because it's just this. It's not just the fountain of knowledge; it's the enthusiasm, and I love having that on board with me on this one about something that I love so much. So I do appreciate that. Stick with us for our question of the week. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back for our question of the week, and then we'll wrap the show up. So here we go. We'll be right back. ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, and all Time Lords in between. Again, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to give you the opportunity to pick our question of the week this week. Pick a number between 1 and 453.
Let's see. 157, I guess, maybe.
There you go.
157.
157. Now, these
All right.
questions have not always been like blissfully nerdy. There's been some serious topics in there, so I'm interested to see what pops up.
Sometimes they make us think.
Yes.
Bad question.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Who do you feel like you know, even though you've never met them?
Okay. All right, Elizabeth. Who do you feel you know, even though you've never met that person?
Maybe Georgia Tennant, just because I love her Instagram so much.
There you
If
go.
that's an acceptable
Fair.
answer. I mean, the Tennants do keep their lives, their lives very private, which I think is amazing and an accomplishment in this, day and age. But especially Georgia, is so funny on Instagram all the time.
I remember her posting the picture of her father standing on a chair trying to change a light bulb, and David with his hands in his pockets watching. And the caption was, "I don't think this is going to end well."
I mean, I think a little too because the staged show that they did this year in lockdown was a lot of fun. If you haven't watched that yet, it's very, very funny. It is a bit of the British humor, but it's very good. And they're doing a second season too, so that'll be fun. It's on Hulu, so
all right, I will check that out.
Yeah.
How about you, Grandmaster Daniel?
I'm trying to think. I need to come back to me. I'm not sure.
You've met so many people over the years, right? And I think that's one of the things, though, is you Elizabeth hit it with the fact that social media allows us to get to know a person without having to meet them. Of course, you're getting to know a version of that.
You're getting to know what they're letting you see.
Yeah,
exactly.
And there's a lot of people like that I follow. That you get to at least know a portion of their lives.
Yeah.
How about you, Tanya Fabulous?
Just like Dan, it's like it makes you stop and think. I would probably have to go like Jared Padalecki or Jensen Ackles.
Okay, the Supernatural Brothers.
The Supernatural Brothers, because I mean I've seen Jensen go from Eric Brady in Days of Our Lives to Dark Angel to Dean Winchester, and that he's singing and just that he's an all around talented man. That he's got the bar in Texas and all that kind of that stuff, and so yeah, it would have to be the Winchester brothers.
Got an idea there, young man?
No, I mean there's so many names that could pop up here. I mean, because a lot of people I followed for years, type of thing. A lot of celebrities, of course, that you follow for years.
And I just figured out, Chris.
Yes,
we are 2 degrees from Matt Smith. Yes,
we are. We have been for a long time now.
Yes, a couple years now.
Because of Caitlin.
Yep. Because you said I was 2 degrees to
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda the other day because we met Michael Bean.
Right. And let me just take the moment to say, Caitlin Blackwood, what a treasure that young lady is. What a doll. And when we closed up the show that she was there, when we closed up the FC3 she'd come to, and we all wound up at the Old Toad. And
not all of us.
Okay, anyway.
Yep.
We have this picture of her and Jules, and the two of them hit it off like they'd known each other for years. It was just an adorable picture, and I love that one. Anyway, so yes, we're 2 degrees away from Matt Smith. Actually, we're closer than that because of Dan. So because of Elizabeth, So it's like, wait.
She was really nice because she was at Gallifrey 1, I think, just a few months after FC3, and I somehow wound up on the same shuttle from the airport to the hotel with her. And I told her that you guys said hi.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I think Nick Briggs was on the same bus, and I was like, oh, I got on the bus with all the Doctor Who people. Cool, hi.
Good ride. There you go.
It's like 3 a.m.
I would be nerding out. That'd be awesome. I think my answer. Excuse me. Hang on a second. Yeah, that got caught in my throat there. I think my answer to this question would be voice actress Erika Ishii, because I found her on Twitter, and she's done a lot of anime, video game work. She knows the Critical Role folks, right? She's friends with Teen Phoenix. She knows Matt Mercer. She knows all these folks. And I saw her during a regular live play on the Geek and Sundry channel when it was still on Pluto TV on the internet. So I got a chance to like see her in action, and then I found her on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to follow her and see what convention stuff she gets herself into. But then she would be like so open, and like we were talking about it. Some people allow you to see a version of themselves, and others just tell you everything that's going on. And she's one of those folks. So and there are times I'd make a comment, and she'd make a comment back to me on something I said. So it's like in a really weird kind of way, we've become acquaintances, maybe not friends, obviously, but we become acquaintances. So I've gotten to know this person, but have I ever met her face to face? No, I haven't. I'd love to have her at FC3 sometime. That'd be phenomenal. But it's just one of those things, and it falls back to the social media has done wonders to connect people type of an adage.
Yeah, and you connect with people you never even thought about before. That how could I possibly get to know this person?
Right.
And
now you're being given that opportunity.
Mhm.
And I dabbled in Twitter when I first got my account. I was like, it went 6 or 7 years before I even like logged into it. It was like one of those things. And then suddenly I remember going in earnest and like making
Searching.
a comment, and I'm searching people out and liking posts and making comments. And suddenly people were making comments on my comments, and I'm commenting that. And then the actual poster, the celebrity that I'm following, jumps in and starts talking to the both of us. I'm like, wait, what? What is going on here?
Mhm.
It was so amazing.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that Georgia does is, I don't know if she's got, because you can like follow searches or whatever of different phrases on Twitter. I don't know if she does that or if she just randomly, searches her husband's name, but she'll respond to tweets about David sometimes, and it is so funny.
And it's usually just very dry and a little bit on the sarcastic side too. She's
Yeah.
not like, she doesn't pump him up. She'll take shots at him.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, like my favorite she hasn't done this in a while, but on Instagram, sometimes people will be like, "Can you post more pictures of David or whatever?" And she'll post like pictures of every David except her husband. She's just like, "Listen."
Because she can.
She can, yeah. She's so funny. Yeah. I was a little nervous when she got social media because I think she had like a private Facebook account for a really long time out, and I was like a little nervous. I'm like, oh, are people gonna behave themselves? But I think she's unafraid enough to say what she thinks, that people have for the most part not been gross or obnoxious. So
It's going to be them. He's got to have that thick skin and be able to
yeah,
go get past them because
for sure. Yeah, she's fun though. Because David Tennant's podcast is a lot of fun, and then she'll pop in sometimes, and
They have a
she
great
just seems
chemistry,
like
the
a
two
fun
of them.
person.
Yeah,
Like, I wanna be friends with
it's good to
Tennants.
see the two of them, together, because they just have such great chemistry with each other.
Yeah, they're so sweet. It is a little weird how they met, and it was funny because at that New York Comic Con, Matt and Alex were both teasing David about it. It was very funny.
Well,
But
my favorite anecdote is Peter and Sylvester are at the panel, and somebody shouts out the question, "What's the strangest thing a fan has ever given you?" And before the two of them can respond, somebody yells out, "A granddaughter!" And and everybody loses it. And Peter Davidson's got his head on the table, just laughing so hard.
yeah, I know. I just want to be like friends with them. They seem like such cool people.
Exactly. I think that, and that's the great chemistry that they have.
Yeah, definitely watch Stage if you get a chance. It's really funny. It's because the basic conceit of the show is that David Tennant and Michael Sheen were supposed to do a play together, but then all this happens and lockdown happens, and so the director tries to convince them to continue to go on with rehearsals over Zoom. And it's just a whole thing. They've got a bunch of different guest actors too, like Samuel L. Jackson is in it, Judi Dench is in it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And that's Stage, is what you call it.
Stage, yeah, it's on Hulu.
Okay.
And the second season is supposed to start soon, I think. And hopefully it gets on Hulu faster than the first season did, because I think it aired in the UK back in like April or May, and it only got put on Hulu like the last month or so. But they're like 30-minute or less episodes, and I think there's only 8 episodes, so it's fun.
Good stuff. All right. Lots of good things to look forward to. The holiday special for Doctor Who coming out on New Year's Day. January 1st. It's a Friday.
Yay!
And hopefully, and it'll be coming out on HBO Max and BBC America?
I don't know. Because usually there's some sort of delay. But I don't, because this is the first episode that I think will be coming out since the HBO deal went through.
Okay.
Because I know it got taken off. Yeah, so I don't know. I usually buy the episodes on Amazon Prime because they let me screen cap and save the screen caps to my computer, unlike iTunes, which blocks the screenshots and is a pain when we're trying to get costume details. So
I'll update people on Nerd World News on that one.
Though, so
gotcha.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll update Nerd World News on that one. So if I learn anything, I'll make sure people know about it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, then that is, my dear friends and family, what we would call a wrapperoo. We're done. That's it. It's all over. So hey, Dan.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Chris.
Hit it. Because this has been FC3's Monkey Business, a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic-Con, coming at you in 2021. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us wherever we go, and we will lead you to where the entertainment is. You guys have a great week. Have a safe week, and we will talk to you again next week.
Dun dun.
Every time.